everyone. We are again with this little program, Conversations with Alice Rose. I'm Alice Rose, and our guest today is Ginger Smith, a lady of the town of Wethersfield who has done a magnificent thing, in my opinion, in this time of her retirement years. She's involved with supporting an orphanage down in Central America, and I wish her to tell her story of how she was involved and how she's continuing with this service to humanity, really. So, Ginger, begin.
Okay, in 2000, I went on my first medical mission because I'm a physical therapist. And at the end of the mission, we went to the orphanage because one of the nurses had adopted a child from there in years past, and she wanted to meet with the nun, Sister Teresita Gonzalez, to just see her. So that was my first time there. Then the second year I went down there, we went over to see Sister again, and I asked her if I could come the third year and get involved in the orphanage, and she said yes. So on the third year, which was in 2003, I started going to the orphanage, and when I was on the medical mission, I had to give a certain amount of money, and that was to pay for my room and board. But I found out that that was an excessive amount of money in regards to really how much the room and board cost. So I decided I would rather give that amount of money, which at the time was $750, to the orphanage. And so I started going down there in the beginning once a year, and I gave them the $750. And then I decided that maybe I could raise more money and bring them more money. So I was already selling, starting 16 years ago, I started in the Wethersfield Farmers Market when it came around. And I started selling jellies and jams to raise money for the orphanage. And then I was taking around $3,000 down. And the money is used for food for the children because they don't get the high quality of food that we get. They get adequate food, and they're very well cared for. They have good clothes and places to sleep and stuff like that. But I buy things that they don't get a lot of. And so it's just progressively, as I've entered other farmers markets, the money that I've been able to raise has gradually gone higher. And in the beginning, there were about 40 some children down there, and some as young as 2 years old. And so I just became in love with the children, and they were so awesome. The children were just amazing, and they're so happy to have you there, and they wait for me when I come. So now I go twice a year for 2 weeks at a time, and I'm up to about $7,000 that I can take down there, and I go to the grocery store every day while they're in school because their times not in school are December and January. And some of the things that I learned that help them is that when they go to school, they have to leave the orphanage they have to eat at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they have to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they get back to the orphanage around 1. And so they get a snack to take with them. But the snack is just two tortillas with some pureed black beans and folded in half. And some of the older children are getting really hungry while they're in school because that's not really enough. So when I go down there, I make sandwiches like meat and cheese or peanut butter and jelly, which is one of their favorite things. And I give them bananas. And so when I'm down there, they get a lot more. And I've been trying to encourage the people that run the orphanage to give the children more to eat, to take to school, because they do get very hungry in that amount of time they're gone, which is 6 to 7 hours. And then they come home for lunch, and their hot meal is in the middle of the day. And now that I've been going down there such a long time, I'm cooking their meals while I'm down there because they want American food. And their favorite things are like lasagna and stir-fried chicken with vegetables. And an interesting thing that um, might let you know what it's like is when I make eggs for them, I have to scramble 60 eggs for the number of people that eat breakfast. And I don't just do the eggs, I put vegetables and cheese and meat in the eggs. And so it's very different from what they get. And another thing I saw when I was down there was their idea of making pancakes, what they call pancakes for the children, is like flour and water. But then when I realized that, I started buying pancake mix, and the children couldn't believe the difference. One of the other things they like only is in October, they have these things called lychees. They're little red fruits that have
I
a,
love them. I love them.
they have a, like a clear center in the middle and then a seed. And I buy about, in October, I usually buy about 800 of them and give the kids 3 or 4 for lunch and dinner every day.
Excuse me, Ginger. May I ask, there's more to the story in terms of how it got established. Now, I share your experience in going there on a medical mission. Unlike you, I did not continue involvement with it. But when the farmer's market started, and I saw you there selling your preserves, and I said, oh, we share an experience. And I brought pictures to you that I had taken at the time that I was there. And I apparently predate your mission with your church group. I went with another church group. It was a very ecumenical effort that I don't know, it continues to this day, does it, or does it not?
No, it does not.
It does not.
No.
Because there were people from Canada when I went, and various places, as well as, our group here from Weathersfield. And at the time, I don't know whether, I don't think they had established the orphanage yet at that time. They still were accepting babies who had been abandoned because of the HIV epidemic. That was brand new. It was wiping out young couples who knew that their young children had no one to take care of them, so they were leaving them at the doorstep of the emergency rooms. And I understand that they turned to Sister Teresita, who ran a private girls' school from the convent there in that capital city. What's the name of it now?
The capital is Tegucigalpa.
Yeah.
But we are out of San Pedro Sula, which Tegucigalpa is further south.
Mm-hmm.
And
where the convent school was. Was that just
in El Progreso, where I go.
Uh-huh. Okay. In any case, so she did manage to get houses established for the care of these abandoned babies. And I remember I had pictures of it at one time of, the caring. She got donations for the housing and the staff to take care of the babies. We went to visit it, and it was, heart-wrenching. I mean, I was okay until I saw the picture of, Christ with the children around him, and the saying, in the Bible, let the little children come unto me. And I started bawling. I went out and found one of the dentists out there bawling also, turning away from me. And I said, it's perfectly all right to cry. And then I guess subsequently that she got the donations for the land for the orphanage up in the mountains. That was the story that I had from them. And then, so over the years, you've established more of a personal relationship. I never went back because I had, not that I wouldn't have wanted to if I knew somebody was doing this, but I had other things in the family, like, family members that were ill I had to take care of over those years. And at that time, when I met you at the farmer's market, and we got together and I showed you my pictures, and I saw what you were doing, which I think is absolutely wonderful that you've done this for how many years now?
Over 20. The thing that's really important to understand is when I first went down there are a lot of things then that are much better now. For example, in Central America, except for Costa Rica, the kids only go to school K to 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then, unless you have money to go to a private school, that's the end of the Honduran education.
Mm-hmm.
That has changed down there now because there's a doctor in Durham, Connecticut, who is paying for educational needs for the children, and she first started out by hiring tutors to help the children with their homework, because in the beginning when I went down there, nobody was paying any attention to homework or anything, and no boy had ever graduated from high school. At this time, there only have been 4 to 5 boys to graduate. There probably have been about 10 girls. But the education is now becoming more and more important. All children are going past the 8th grade, if at all possible. And they have also realized that maybe some children cannot do that, and they might be able to go to chef school or learn how to sew and make dresses or go to beauty school and stuff like that. So we have that happening now. Also, there's a group from Tennessee that is paying for every child. The lady from Tennessee has found families that will, and every child is now sponsored, which means their uniforms are paid for, their backpacks, their shoes and socks, and anything the school requires that they bring in the beginning of the school year, which is February the 1st, and school year ends on November 30th. And then we have some people from Texas now helping, who are paying for salaries for the adults who manage the children in the orphanage. So a lot of changes have happened for the best, but the thing that caused a big problem was the couple that helped found the orphanage were from New Jersey with sister, but the gentleman died and the lady moved to Florida. So now all these other people have had to come in, because this orphanage is 100% dependent on America and American people to provide the money and needs. The government of Honduras, although they want us to take children, which we do, and it is a Catholic orphanage, neither of those help pay for anything. So that's why I do as much for food. And when I leave there, I'm leaving them with full freezers, the counters loaded with food of all descriptions, and unfortunately it only lasts about 3 weeks, but it's the best I can do because I don't have the sufficient funds to leave more food down there.
But this last time you said that the kids had been taught and were building greenhouses.
No, not the children. The gentlemen who take care of the property, like mowing the grass and everything, 2 of those guys built a greenhouse. Mm-hmm. And Heart Seed Company in Weathersfield donates seeds to me in October, and I take them down there, and they use the seeds to grow the best they can. But you have to realize that Honduras is extremely hot and humid, starting
Tropical.
in March and going all the way through October. And during that time frame, there's usually 1 or 2 very bad rainy seasons. Mm-hmm. So that's not conducive for growing a lot of things. Mm-hmm. On the property of the orphanage, there are papayas, mangoes, oranges, and avocados. Mm-hmm. Other fruit and bananas and plantains, which is very helpful, but I need more money to buy more food. And sometimes when I go there, throughout these years, I've bought 2 fridges and I've bought a stove, which really takes away from the food money. But on the other hand, if I didn't buy the stove, for example, 2 years ago, there was no stove. There's only a cooktop. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't bake anything. They cook with gas on grills. So Honduras is always going to have, the Honduran orphanage is always going to have problems having enough food. They'll never have a problem with clothes because there's so many donations. But food is the key factor. So if
What
any,
about like the UN organization that like Feed the Children or
No.
something like that? No?
nothing, no.
Hmm.
And the way we get children is either parents release them. We got a sibling group of 6 because the parents couldn't feed them. We got a sibling group of 5 because the mother didn't have money for food, so she tried to poison them, but she wasn't successful. We have sexual abuse in some of the families. Sometimes they find children wandering on the streets, and we get them. And then there was the time about 5 years ago when a family told there was a boy 12, a girl 5, and a girl 3, and the parents told the boy 12 that he could take care of his sisters because they were going to the United States, and turned around and left. But then the neighbor called a TV station, and then we got called, and we have those children. So we will take any children that have no place to go, and our numbers fluctuate between 35 and 45. Right now, I think there's about 38.
Mm-hmm. But wasn't there a point where there were like 127 children?
Never. We don't have room for that.
No. And Sister Teresita, is she still involved in the program?
Yeah, Sir Terry is 78 now, and last year she broke her hip, and she's still struggling to get over that because medical care in Honduras is a little sketchy, but she's coming along. She is just the most amazing woman. She will not, no matter how much money I give her for food for her and the 2 other nuns that she lives with, she'll give it all away. She always does.
I remember her when she was in her younger days, with a little brown sort of robe and the little
She doesn't wear
sandals, and she was so a dynamo. She had so much energy; it was incredible. But she became ill, and you had to rescue her, didn't you?
Well, she got COVID, and I had to send money down there for her to have special care. So I do things like that. One time there was a hurricane that caused all 3 of the ladies in the kitchen to lose most of their furniture. So I had to buy mattresses for all 3 of them but when I go down there, I'm picked up at the airport by the same people every time, a gentleman and a lady. And those 2 people take me everywhere. They guard me. They will not let me go anywhere. So they're always by my side. Every time I go to the store, everywhere in town I go, they are with me, always. And if anybody would like to help out with food for the children, the website the gentleman that is filming this has my information, and I would love to get donations to help buy food for the children, because one example, the only time they ever get fish is when I'm down there. The only time anybody takes them on a day trip for the entire day is when I'm down there, and I take them to the beach, which is on the Gulf Coast. Or I used to take them to a water park, but since COVID, it's shut down. So I have beautiful children, and you're welcome to go with me anytime if you'd like to see what it's like to go down there. I've taken a person down there once, but if you ever have a teenager that's learning Spanish, it would be an exceptional experience for them, but it would have to be in March or October during their school year, but maybe the schools would let the children have a day off.
Or possibly college students. Our friend James might have somebody that might be interested in that kind of an experience. Now, how involved what happens to the children once they get beyond a certain age? Do they leave the orphanage? What happens to them?
Well, when they graduate high school, last year we had 3 girls graduate high school and a boy who graduated from chef school. He has went to chef school for 3 years and now has a good job and an apartment to live in. The 3 girls, 2 are in college and 1 is wants to be a beautician. So they're together with a person that left the orphanage about 5 years ago, and she has enough room that she lets them stay with her. But they usually leave between 18 and 20. And the people from Texas and the people from Tennessee will help them if they want to do something to learn how to get a job. They will help them with rent, but they really need to get jobs, which is kind of hard to do.
I mean, they're in Honduras.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that they immigrate or no?
No way to get to the United States right now. I would love. There's a little boy down there right now that's about 12 years old who is pretty fluent in English that I think would really do well if he could come to the United States and go to school. But I don't know how to make it happen.
What about the church? Does the church provide any opportunity for them as they leave the schooling and the orphanage? Teresita, we've both independently described her as India has Mother Teresa and Honduras has Sister Teresita. We both independently came up with the same statement.
Right. There was an interesting thing that happened last week at the farmer's market. Two people came up to me, and when I told them what I was doing, they asked me where, and the gentleman was from the town.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really cool. He was shocked that that's what I was doing and that's where I was going. And he knew Sorteri, he knew the orphanage, and it was the.
He had no idea that you were doing this? Well, how could he live in the same town?
He doesn't live there now. He lives in the United States.
Yeah.
His mother lives there.
Oh, okay.
He goes back to visit, but he would have no clue what I do.
Well, now that he knows, do you think he's going to contribute in some way?
He
No
has
way.
my information.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. He bought a jar of jam, and he has my information. I don't know what he's going to do. But I guess he was appreciative that I was helping Honduras. So that's about it.
Well, I thank you very much. It's been a very interesting conversation, and it's remarkable what you've done and what you've achieved. I mean, you're working harder now than you ever did when you were employed.
Yeah, but when you fall in love with a bunch of children, you're not going to turn away from them. And these kids are beautiful, and they're good, and I love them dearly.
Well, another star in your crown. I thank you so much for coming today.
You're welcome.
God bless you, folks. I hope that you will consider helping in some way, in some small way. Not going to cost you any great thing, just to give support to Ginger in her work. God bless you, dear.
Thank you.